Was yesterday, or I should say 2 days ago, Super Bowl 59 gave us a result that I don't think any of us were expecting. For me, being upfront, being honest, I have the Chiefs winning 28-25. I thought this was going to be a typical Chiefs game where they keep it close, staple offenses with Steve Spagnuolo and that defense, and they pull it through at the end with Patrick Mahomes making a game-winning drive, or if you want to say the first go-around with the Eagles, a controversial call that kind of sealed the game. It was not like that. It was 40-22 was the final score, and really you can kind of chalk up the 22 as inflated. It was essentially 40-6 score. The two touchdowns and the stats that came after with, I don't know if it was DeAndre Hopkins got one of the touchdowns, Xavier Worthy I think had one of the other touchdowns too late, and Patrick Mahomes, his stats, like I said, are very inflated. Discredited. It doesn't really mean too much. Really, the main score was 40-22. If the Eagles really tried for the rest of the game, it probably would have kept that score. But 40-22 was the final score we got, and we're gonna break down the game stats and also the box scores and kind of give my thoughts on the Super Bowl matchup. So time of possession, and you're gonna see from almost down the line, most of it goes in the Eagles' favor. Time of possession was key. They were much better in this, 36-23 for the Eagles. First downs 21-12 Eagles. Total yards 345-275 Eagles. Passing yards, again, inflated because of the end, but 226-210 Chiefs. Rushing yards was huge, 135-49. 40, I think it was like 40 yards or so was Patrick Mahomes. That like 90-95% of the rushing yards was Patrick Mahomes. The running off, or everyone else, Kareem Hunt, P. Ryan, Pachenko could do absolutely nothing. And even for the wild part too is for the 135 rushing yards, Saquon Barkley didn't really do too much. They held him in check, and that's something I can give credit for the defense. They stopped him. He had close to 100 total yards because he had over around 40 yards receiving. He only had 50, I think it was like 52, 57 yards rushing on 25 carries, or just under 2.3 yards per carry. So they did his job. Most of it came from Hurts, where he had over 70 yards rushing, had a touchdown. That's where the bulk of it. When you kind of look as you would expect, at least most of this would be Saquon, or at least you would have over 100 or close to that. He wasn't. He was very ineffective, but it didn't really matter because everyone else did their job, and that was kind of the bad thing is they felt like they put all their focus on Saquon and no one else really. Penalties was more, the Chiefs were better in this, 8-7 for Philadelphia. Total return yards, of course, for the Chiefs because of all the touchdowns they scored. Total plays, this was another huge one, 70-49 the Eagles. Yards per play 5.6 to 4.9. Turnovers 3-1. Again, the Eagles defense played absolutely phenomenal in this game, and we'll get to that a lot once we start breaking down the box scores. So let's start with the Chiefs, the team that is getting bashed heavily yesterday and today, and rightfully so. Patrick Mahomes ended the game with 21-32, 65.6 completion percentage, 257 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 103.83 QBR. Again, heavily inflated at the end. He played horrible. This was someone that was rattled, that was, I think you can go as far as say broken mentally in this game, maybe emotionally. Certainly physically, the guy just kept getting hit relentless over and over again. To me, they beat. I mean, essentially, to really break it down, they broke him, and not just him. A lot of other people on this team. I think just mentally, they just were beat up so much to the point where it was. I think even you saw that even the beginning of the second half when they had come out of the gate. First 2 plays they were productive. You thought, okay, maybe the Chiefs have something going on here. Maybe they can try and build something and get a touchdown. Eagles shut that down immediately. Patrick Mahomes kind of threw some careless plays, or careless throws. And you can give credit to the Eagles defense for that. Cooper DeJean had that pick 6, and their the linebacker, I forget his name offhand, I apologize. We'll see that in a second when I break down the Eagles defense. He had great diving interception. I think the bigger one was just Cooper DeJean. It just seemed like such a careless throw. It seemed like Patrick Mahomes obviously just not see him, and give credit to Cooper DeJean for maybe like just being hidden, having great play recognition and great instincts to get the ball. But Mahomes was not effective, and not that it's not all on him. He had no time with the offensive line. Constantly, every single time, dropping back, was always running around, relentless, always getting pushed towards the center. The edge rushers kind of pushed him towards the middle, towards the defensive tackles, and it was a swarm. Got him easily. It felt like it was almost like that every single play. You said that for rushing yards. I apologize. I was way off on that. I thought it was 40 yards. It was 25 yards for Patrick Mahomes. That was your leading rusher with that. Everyone else was absolutely ineffective. Kareem Hunt, 3 carries for 9 yards. P. Ryan, 1 for 8. Pachenko, 3 for 7. They weren't, I would say, necessarily throughout the whole year great at running the football, but they were effective at times when they need to be. Kareem Hunt had a good season, over 700 yards rushing. Pachenko, unfortunately, he got hurt, and it didn't seem like he was really himself after that injury he suffered. But they had to go away from the running game very quickly because of how out of, how far this game was getting out of hand, I should say. They did try to keep up with it. I think when it was 14-0, 17-0. I think maybe at points it was 24-0. They tried to run it a little bit, but again, you have to score touchdowns quickly, and seeing how easy it was for the Eagles' offense to move up and down the field when they were given the good field position. They had to quickly move away from that, and that really didn't do too much for them. So that was a huge thing too. You really made him one-dimensional very early on, and it was just easy to tee off of Mahomes and get the sacks. I think ended the game with 6 sacks. Or he was sacked 6 times, I should say. For receiving wise, again, very inflated for the stats, but Xavier Worthy, if you want to give him credit, 8 catches for 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. Outside of that was very abysmal. After that, your second leading receiver was Travis Kelce, 4 for 39. Marquise Brown, 2 for 15. Hopkins, 2 for 18 and 1 touchdown. Noah Gray, 1 for 2, which again also not effective because they used 2 tight ends really heavily, and I think Noah Gray was a good part of their offense, especially for the tight end side of it. Was a great complementary piece for Travis Kelce this year, and just couldn't do anything. Kareem Hunt, 1 for 5, and Pachenko, 1 for 5 as well. And we'll look down the list for show you the list for the defensive stats. Not really too much to go off of. I mean, Byron Cook got the interception. Give credit. That was probably the only good play. The Chiefs defense did got pressure on Hurts when they're at the Chiefs 30. Hit him, threw the ball up. If you want to say almost a punt to the Chiefs defense, and then Cook ended up with the interception. You thought maybe, okay, this is where the Chiefs are gonna get back into this. No, didn't really do too much after that. And another thing too, Matt Reese had a lot of punts in this game. Not a lot. He did 6 punts in this one. Buckner was no-show, not because of his own fault, but they got to a point where they just couldn't do extra points. They couldn't do field goals. He was non-existent. The only thing he really did was just the kickoffs and the onside kicks. And I thought that was going to be a part of the game that was really going to be interesting. The kickers for Elliott and Buckner, because I thought it was going to come to, like I said, I predicted 28-23 or 28-25. You think maybe the kickers would make play some type of role, maybe for Philadelphia at least, because certainly we would, no question, say Buckner is better than Elliott in that one, more clutch, more reliable at this point, and it was all for nothing. Again, did not even attempt the field goal attempt, did not even attempt the extra point, and give credit to Elliott too. He kept getting pushed back. I feel like there was at least 2 or 3 kicks they had where it was a flag, got pushed back extra yards. One was a 50-yard field goal. I think one was 45. And he came clutch and made those plays. So give credit to Elliott. He really stepped up in those situations when his offense or his offensive line or special teams messed up and pushed him back an extra 5 yards. So give credit to Elliott for that, for making the plays and putting some points on the board. We need to. So we're going to look at the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. Kenny Pickett, and I think I want to say the disrespectful part was they benched or took out Jalen Hurts and put Kenny Pickett in. Did absolutely nothing. Only had 1 pass attempt for 0 yards. But for Jalen Hurts, was effective when need be. 17-22, 77.2 completion percentage, 221, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 129.92 QBR. Barkley, like I talked about, very ineffective. 25 carries, 57 yards, 2.2 yards per carry. His longest run was a first down, essentially 10 yards. And that to me is the craziest part. If you would have told somebody before the game and showed that stat, Barkley 25 or 57, you would not expect this blowout. You wouldn't. I'm sorry. You would think wow, the offense really struggled, especially your offensive player of the year, your 2,000-yard rusher Barkley not being effective at all. It's that, and that to me that's the shocking part. The Chiefs, like I said, did their job. They stopped Saquon Barkley, but just couldn't stop anything else. Jalen Hurts, the other thing it comes into 72 yards rushing, 1 touchdown, 11 carries, averaged. His longest run was 17 yards or 6.54 yards a carry. Gainwell, 6 for 10. Kenny Pickett, 3 for -4. Barkley had, once again, 6 catches for 40 yards, so he did help in that a little bit. Longest was 22 yards. Jahan Dotson had 2 for 42. Almost had a great touchdown catch, but was just short. And I think that did set up the tush push early in the game. A.J. Brown 3 for 43 and 1 touchdown. Even though the numbers don't jump out at you, he played phenomenal. He really outplayed Trent McDuffie. He could do whatever he wants to him. Got open, made great catches. I know it seemed like early on he was a little bit frustrated on the sidelines, but again, very effective on those 3 catches. Played much better than Trent McDuffie. McDuffie had no shot in that one, and that really is the theme for everybody else. Everyone really just played their worst game of the season, certainly, and you could say for some of them the worst game of their careers in this in this game. So give credit to AJ Brown for that one. Played phenomenal in very little production when he for the catches and so forth. Goddard, same thing, 2 for 27. Didn't really do too much. Another one I really emphasize for someone that had to step up in this game, Devontae Smith, because of the matchup. Like I said, Trent McDuffie and AJ Brown in my preview a couple days ago, or a few hours, I should say, before the Super Bowl was on. Devontae Smith, once again, absolutely phenomenal. Had that amazing deep catch from Jalen Hurts early in the second half that really, put the nail in the coffin and really sealed this game away. He played great. He stepped up along with A.J. Brown, and that was a huge difference in this one. When you look at Saquon Barkley, only have 57 rushing yards. Someone else had to step up when Barkley is being stifled at that point, and both these receivers made plays when they had to, and they were huge in this one. Both of them were phenomenal in this one. And then for defense, all across the board, phenomenal. You look at the sacks. Jordan Davis had 1. Josh Sweat had 2. I think he did have technically 2.5, even though it doesn't have half on there. But I think he did end of the season or end of the game with 2.5 sacks. Then you have 2 from Milton Williams. Someone that doesn't pop up is Jalen Carter. This is I thought he would register at least a tackle, but he didn't. He was relentless as well. He was constantly all over Mahomes with that front four as well, even though he didn't register a sack or any statistic. But give credit to him. He was absolutely phenomenal. He was ferocious, always disrupting things in the interior. The one I was to say is Zach Bond. That was a person that I couldn't think of the linebacker's name. Absolutely phenomenal, great diving catch, get the interception. Like we talked about, Cooper DeJean, phenomenal pick six that really changed the dynamic of this game. And it's really, at the end of it, if you really look at taking a step back, give credit to Howie Roseman for his drafting, not just for this year, but in the last few years. Cooper DeJean, Quinn Mitchell, top picks in this past draft, really stepped up and played phenomenal throughout the whole season and elevated their game into the postseason, especially in the Super Bowl. You look at Jalen Carter, like I talked about, a first-round pick last year, absolutely great, even though the stats aren't sack-wise, jump out to 4.5 sacks, but absolutely disruptive, a difference maker, one of the better interior defensive linemen this year. It's really up-and-coming ones, no question, for younger defensive tackles. Jordan Davis, another first-round pick the year before, great, huge, great size, is disruptive, a great run stuffer. That's another one. And they might be losing Sweat. He's a free agent, and I'm sure someone's going to throw money at him. But you have Nolan Smith, who again stepped up in this year, late going, especially towards the second half of the season, and especially in the playoffs. They just getting difference makers all around. Darius Slay, well, C.J. Gardner-Johnson played well. Let's see who else. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, those are really the big names that jump out at you for that one. Everyone stepped up, everyone played phenomenal. Another one thing too is give it to Fangio. Absolutely masterclass performance here for his play calling and his design for the scheme of plays to really disrupt Mahomes and get there. To me, the craziest thing of all this is just the zero blitzes at all in this game. It was just solely the front four that got to Mahomes and stopped him. And that, to me, is the recipe for not just the Chiefs. It's not a Patrick Mahomes exclusive thing. That is for anybody to do. You have to have a legitimate front four. Doesn't mean you have to have all pros all across the board, but you got to have people that make plays and are difference makers. I mean, you go back to Tom Brady, the undefeated season, 07 Patriots, even the 2011 season, the second go-around between the Giants. They had a great front four that just disrupted Brady and got to him and made it difficult for them to do anything. That's the same thing for this one. You even go back to the first Super Bowl loss for the Chiefs against the Bucks. The same thing too. A ferocious front four that just disrupted that offensive line and disrupted Mahomes, and they could do absolutely nothing in that one. It's almost a mirror from that Super Bowl back in 2020. That is the recipe. Is essentially just having a great front four. Again, not all of them don't have to be all pros. All of them don't have to be defensive player of the years and all that, but You have to have people when it matters most step up, and that's what it was for the Eagles. Give credit to Fangio. Give credit to Kellen Moore too. Unfortunately for their sake, he just took the Saints job today. I don't agree with it. I think it's a horrible situation for anybody to go to, but good luck to him. He did a great year. He did a great job with his time in Philadelphia. Great time, great play calling, and surely made it easier when you have all the talent on that side of the ball. For again, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. I will throw in Goddard as well, a solid tight end and a good offensive line. Made it much easier for him. So, but again, give him credit for what he did this year. And Nick Sirianni, his tenure with the Eagles has been great so far. I mean, if I have it right, 4 years, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and 1 win. And he revenged that 2 years ago, which was, don't want to bring up the past. I didn't like the controversial call at the end. I think that kind of screwed him over, but that's for a entirely different story. He got his revenge, and it was amazing for them. I mean, absolutely blew them out. It wasn't even close. If you kind of buy into the whole NFL, the refs are for the Chiefs. I mean, they kind of put into a position where the refs couldn't even make that happen. Couldn't even help the Chiefs at one point because it was just so out of, so far away for them to even do anything. But again, give credit to all across the board for this year, especially in the Super Bowl performance, what everyone did. Master class. Certainly, I think this defense has been one of the better defensive performances we've seen in the Super Bowl in recent years. So, again, fun to watch to see that side. The Chiefs, we could chalk. I mean, you can just criticize everything all across the board. I mean, they were outcoached. Andy Reid did not look like he had a game plan set up for this game for the Eagles, and they were outplayed. I mean, I'd say again, don't want to go out, make say anything too crazy about it, but it's just just stating the obvious. I mean, they were outcoached, outplayed. There was nothing they did that was great except for the early interception. That is pretty much it. And maybe you want to say again, stopping Saquon Barkley, which at the end of the day meant absolutely nothing to them. Mahomes played arguably his worst game of his career, at least in a while. No doubt about that. He was rattled. He was broken. He was. I don't want to go as far as say scared. I think it's a bad term to say, but it was just could not do anything. Could not get set up. Could not have any time to even process anything. That is the problem, and it extends into the offensive line. Horrible. Did absolutely nothing to help Patrick Mahomes whatsoever. They had no chance whatsoever. At any point, it looked like they were starting to figure it out. They were starting to slow him down. The only time they played well was at the end of the game when they didn't care anymore, and they scored those 2 garbage touchdowns. That's the only time you could just say when they really figured it out at that point. But when it really mattered most, when they had to, absolutely nothing. I mean, they might as well just stand there and do nothing and let them all run at Mahomes. Or they not even have an offensive line out there to begin with, because that's what it just felt like for Mahomes. Every time he dropped back, there's already 2 or 3 people in the backfield trying to get to him. I mean, that's just what the truth was for that game. What we talked about, like I said, running offense for the running game, completely non-existent. I mean, Mahomes 25 yards and 4 carries is your leading rusher. That is a huge issue. They just cannot. They cannot run the ball. I'm sorry. I can't think of the words. I just had a blank there. They cannot just stabilize that part of it. It was not the right word I want to use, but they cannot stabilize the running game in this one. It was. I want to say they were not a great running team to begin with, but they were effective when they had to. Kareem Hunt played well at times. Isaiah Pacheco, not great since he's came back from his knee injury or his injury, but we know who Pacheco is. He was a huge help in their first 2 championships. He is a good running back. I think at times maybe an underrated running back and not maybe an underappreciated one. In terms of if you want to rank him in the list, throughout the league, but not effective since he came back from his injury. Kareem Hunt was decent, but once again, I mean, you're not winning games when your running backs are only running for 9 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards. It's not doing anything for you, not helping anybody, especially for Patrick Mahomes and this team. Like I said, very one-dimensional early on and did not look back since. The passing game, 2 receivers I said that had to step up was Xavier Worthy, which, I mean, again, if you want to count the garbage yards or not, he did step up. He did make plays, so he did live up to that. DeAndre Hopkins did absolutely nothing. He had that horrible wide open drop. No one around him, trips on himself, and that was another pivotal point in the game where you gotta make that play. And that's someone too that I think that was a big disappointment since coming to the Chiefs in the deadline. Hasn't really produced, and this was somebody that they desperately needed in this game. They need someone with his skill set, and I can't say he's been there and done that. Hasn't been to a conference championship before this. Hasn't been to a Super Bowl before this, but you've seen him make big plays throughout his career, and you can just chalk it up as he's just old. He's just past his prime. He's a shell of himself. I still think he had the capability in him. I still think he can make those clutch catches, those great routes to get open and make plays, and that just not was the case. He did not help Patrick Mahomes at all. And again, that big drop and trip down the field out from nobody was painful to watch. Travis Kelce, same thing too. I think we saw his face more on the sidelines than we did in the game. Not efficient whatsoever. Did not help at all. Did not get open. He was not the difference maker that we've seen in years past, or even a few weeks ago. Maybe if you want to look at the Texans game when he played well, nothing at all. I don't know what's going to happen in the offseason. I know he's uncertain. I mean, it seems like the Chiefs players feel confident that he's going to be coming back, but at this state, who knows? At this point, I don't want to say that the Chiefs are going to get rid of him or it's easy, just get rid of him, but he's getting up there in age, in his mid-30s. He still put up good numbers. I mean, just even though it was a down year, let's remember that it was a down year throughout the whole NFL for tight ends. Very disappointing, especially if you're a fantasy owner. The tight ends were not great this year. Another the big one too is Samuel Laporta. It was a huge one that just dropped off statistically this year. And again, it was throughout the whole league for that one, but again, put up decent numbers still, respectably throughout the whole league, but he's not the player he used to be. He's not elite. He is at times a great tight end, but he's not the elite player he was a few years ago, even a couple years ago. And that's gonna be tough. I mean, I think him having just him being out there and his presence is enough to for defenses to still respect him, and he can still make plays. I'm not saying he can't. He can give you those flashes here and there, but it's just less consistent than it's been in years past. I think he'll stay. He'll be back another year, but again, for this one, it just felt in that moment. Look, you see the face expression and so forth. And I mean, not that was different from anyone else, but it just felt like maybe that was his final game. But I mean, reality, again, just being objective and taking maybe the emotion out of it at that moment, he'll be back for next year, and they'll be just fine, I think. But overall, again, there was no help whatsoever. Trent McDuffie did absolutely nothing. He did not lock down AJ Brown at all, even though the stats weren't, again, that crazy. It was like 3 for 43 and a touchdown. AJ Brown just made plays when he had to, and if they kept throwing the ball to him more, he probably would have got his numbers up a lot more. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he got to Xavier Worthy numbers if they just kept throwing to him, because McDuffie just could not do anything. Chris Jones could not do anything, and that interior did not disrupt Jalen Hurts at all. Wasn't even part of really the play where they kind of forced him to make that interception. Was not part of that. The tush push, it seemed like he kind of tweaked his neck because a trainer was kind of pitching his neck. He winced a little bit right after that play. Got not effective. I think you saw him more in the sidelines and his reactions than you did really on the field making plays. And it's got a lot of people I mentioned did not do anything outside of Xavier Worthy, who stepped up, if you want to say it. And just kind of getting my recap for the game, just looking at projecting next year for both these teams. The Eagles should be the favorites right now. The only thing I would be cautious about is just the offensive coordinator position with Kellen Moore. I don't know who they're going to bring in to replace him. Again, I think it was a bad decision for him to leave, because I think he had a great place in Philadelphia right now, at least for one more season, to try and do the repeat back-to-back. But still, I think the Eagles should be the favorites in the NFC. We don't know what's going to happen with Detroit with losing both their coordinators and Glenn and Johnson. 49ers, you presume they're going to do better because of just the injuries that they suffered, and they bring back Robert Saleh at defensive coordinator. So they're going to be probably certainly the 1 and 2 in the NFC, but I think for right now, the Eagles should be the number 1 favorites. They have the roster still. They have a lot of their main players still locked down under contract, especially offensively too, you look at on that side of the ball. And they're going to just keep adding more pieces. And Howie Roseman's probably going to work his magic once again, whether it's a trade or a signing or get someone in the draft that no one expected him to get. They'll be just fine. They should be the betting favorites in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. For the Chiefs, as much as we're bashed, some people want to freak out about their horrible performance. They will be back. I don't want to say for certain they are going to go to their fourth straight Super Bowl, but they still have the best chance. I mean, it's still Patrick Mahomes, it's still the Chiefs. Unfortunately, so no one has yet to really show that they can beat them outside of the Bengals in 2021. But they still have to get back into the playoffs first, and they have their own issues as well. The Bills, the Bills, the Ravens, and so forth. The Texans. I mean, until someone that can actually win a game and beat Kansas City in the playoffs, we can't just sit here. Oh, it's their time to beat the Chiefs, or it's this team's time to beat the Chiefs. Until they actually do it, I don't believe it. The Chiefs will still be the betting favorites to come out of the AFC, and rightfully so. Again, still Patrick Mahomes, still Andy Reid. They're going to do just fine. It'll be the same typical offense it was this year. They're going to be maybe not as high flying, still boring, great defense. We're all going to sit here and say, oh, it's just only a matter of time before they're going to lose. Someone's going to be in the playoffs. They're vulnerable, and they're going to make it. Most cases they'll probably make it back to the Super Bowl. So both these teams are going to be fine. Don't worry. They're going to be at the top of the seeding when we get closer to the playoffs. So don't worry too much on the Chiefs' loss, especially for Chiefs fans. I know it sucks. It was a horrible, brutal loss, but you'll be fine. You'll still be the top team in the AFC once again. And that's going to wrap it up. Again, it was everyone that wasn't a Chiefs fan, it was amazing to watch. For Chiefs fans, it was horrible, but regardless, it was a great way to cap off the 2024-25 season. Absolutely phenomenal. A lot of fun watching many different players make highlight reels and so forth. Playoffs was just say exciting as well. So cannot wait to see what happens in 2026 and who's going to make it in Super Bowl 60.